Hello.
Hello,
Well,
Dean. How are you?
hello. Welcome to space, and more specifically, Mars.
Oh, nice,
Yes.
nice.
Hopefully,
So I'm
everyone can
guessing
hear.
this is terraforming Mars.
It is, as the helpful title says at the top there. Um, uh, yes, it is terraforming Mars. Um, so, I bear with me a second. I just want to check something. Yes. Okay, cool. I'm here. Welcome to Ready Up. Welcome to space. Welcome to Mars. Have you heard or played Terraforming Mars, the board game, Stewart?
I have heard of it. Yes, I have. I'm interested in it, but I haven't been enough to get it yet.
Yes. Ready Up says Mars, the third frontier. Why is it the third frontier? It's the final frontier, surely. That's space, I guess.
Hey,
Um,
how many ears does a Vulcan have?
uh, two, just like everyone else, I think.
No, no, it's three. The left
Really?
ear, the right ear, and the final front ear.
Oh, it's a joke. I didn't really. What are you doing, bringing your
It's
jokes
a
onto my
terrible
serious
joke.
board game stream, Stuart? Okay, so I guess we should start this because I'd like to do a playthrough of the whole game, providing it doesn't crash. Because the important thing to point out is, as it says in the bottom right, this is pre-alpha build. Um, so it's pretty early on, and it needs a lot of polishing up and kind of love and affection still. But I think, like, considering it's in pre-alpha, is pretty good. And as someone who has played the board game an awful lot since it came out, so this game came out about a year and a half ago now, I think. Might even be longer than that. I think it's less than 2 years anyway. I'm pretty sure. It's by Jacob Frixalexis.
I was a way
Frixilis.
to say that is a
Sorry,
fantastic board game designer name, Jacob Frixelius. I think it is
Frixelius.
because
Um,
that is fantastic. That's a Martian name if I've ever heard one.
that is very true. I think it's a kind of a Scandinavian name. So apologies for butchering
Yes,
that.
in the real world, yeah, fine.
I really should have practiced saying that before. Just realised I'd never said it out loud whilst introing the board game to anyone. So there we go. And it's a phenomenal board game. It's one of my favourites. I've played it probably in excess of 50 times. Um, which, given that I've only had it for a year and a half, that's quite a lot. So
Yeah, that's up there with like a weekly play rate. That is not inconsiderable.
yeah, I mean, there's been times where me and my friends have kind of played it two or three times in a row, and it takes about 3 hours to play. So it's really compelling. I think let's get stuck in. So all that is available thus far is to play a two-player game against an AI. So this is a build of the game from PAX, and so it was the kind of like demo, kind of stripped down version that was available there. With all of those provisions in mind,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start it up. The AI is pretty rubbish at the moment. I've played it through quite a few times, and I tend to just trounce it on a regular basis. So, they'll probably make it harder as. I think there's a dog barking outside. I'm just going to close my window. There's also a drunk person shouting. I apologise for this. Um, in space, no one can hear you drunkenly scream. So this option here, the standard game and corporate era rules. I'm probably gonna put it on. God, I'm gonna put on corporate era rules because that's cooler.
What is the difference?
So
Aside from, yes, it does sound cooler. It is objectively cooler.
yeah. So basically, in the game, you can either play as a beginner corporation or you can play as a corporation with lots of interesting special abilities. And the corporate era rules also add extra cards to the game, which are a little bit more interesting. And basically, if you want to play a shorter, more streamlined game, you go for the standard game. But the corporate era rules, I think, are really interesting and bring in lots of interesting cards and stuff. So, create the game. There's Mars. Look, woo! So on the left, I have the choice to be a beginner corporation, and the difference there is you don't have to worry about drafting your opening set of cards, because this is a card drafting game essentially. And it's also an engine building game. So by that I mean you have a bunch of different resources and you're trying to build kind of an efficiency engine out of cards to let you do things, to basically like put tiles down on Mars to make it habitable. So with a beginner corporation, you just start with 10 cards and boom, you go. You don't have to worry about it. With all of the other corporations, you actually draft those cards. So you basically you choose which ones you want to keep, and you pay 3 credits for each one you keep. So immediately there's a lot to think about. And also, like, the beginner corporation as well starts with 1 production for every resource, so it's kind of very generalist, whereas like the other corps kind of push you in different strategies. So I'm going to choose.
All right. Well, since you're talking a big game, I think you should choose the harder one.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got the choice here between interplanetary cinematics, which basically tries to turn. So the idea is that we're all playing corporations who are trying to terraform Mars over hundreds and hundreds of years. Like each turn is a generation, and these lucrative terraforming contracts have been given from the world government to 2 different corporations, which we're playing as, right? So
that sounds like an incredibly fair democratic process.
Exactly.
I'm sure whatever went down there.
I know. I'm sure nothing could possibly go wrong. No one's, no one's seen Total Recall, of course. But so interplanetary cinematics.
Also, I wanted to say hello to Jimbo in the chat. And just to point out, Weyland-Yutani, we could be them if we just relentlessly failed over and over again, and then we would be Weyland-Yutani as a corporation.
Yes, that's a good point there. And hello, Jimbo. Good shout with Weyland-Yutani there. So interplanetary cinematics are basically, they turn the entire process of terraforming Mars into a soap opera, right, and broadcast it. So they have a special ability. They start off with a bunch of steel, which allows them to build certain cards easier, but they also have this ability where each time you play an event, you gain 2 money back because you're televising it. And events are usually things like crashing meteorites into the planet to raise the raise the temperature and stuff like that. So you can film that stuff, make some money off it. And Saturn systems, they get a bonus when a specific tag is played. So this kind of Saturn tag, Jovian tag, kind of gets played. You get some money income basically. So we're going to choose interplanetary cinematics for now, and then
I was way to say that sounds way more awesome.
Yeah. You can go back and change the other corporation if you think your opening cards lend themselves more to that one. But looking through these cards, there's no Jovian tags, so actually it's probably better to go with interplanetary cinematics, because there are this tag here that my mouse is. Can you see my mouse? Yeah.
I can see your mouse. Oh yes, I see the one you mean.
That's a building tag. So you can pay for these cards using steel, and as you remember, that the corp that we've chosen starts with 20 steel. So actually having these cards is quite good because we could build them quite easily.
Okay.
So I'm definitely going to choose the cards that have that symbol, because they.
So at least to start with, we can say that this corporation specializes in building to begin with.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And then you can obviously take it in whichever direction you want. But part of the challenge of the game is kind of like recognizing which cards fit with you, whatever your strategy happens to be. And there are a lot of cards in this game. There are I think it's just a little less than 200 in the base game, but the expansion, which I also have in real life, bumps that up quite considerably. And they're all unique. So it's a case of kind of like making things work with, and a lot of them are quite flexible and fit with lots of different strategies. Protected Habitats is an interesting card because in the game, these are three of the things that you can generate. You can generate greenery, like plant life, basically, animal life, or microbial life. And there are cards that will destroy that and let your opponent steal it from you. So Protected Habitat says, no, you don't get to steal my animal life.
So we could be an extremely ecologically friendly soap opera producing of our own disaster.
Exactly. And if we wanted to do that, we could probably pick the herbivores, right? Because that is an example of an animal card, right? But the thing is, like, animals need oxygen to breathe, right? So you're not going to plonk them down on Mars as is without doing a bit of terraforming first. So this thing on the top of the card here is a requirement that you have to meet before you can play that card. And this says that there needs to be a minimum of 8% oxygen in the atmosphere for these herbivores to exist, right?
Right. So you can't just throw them out there, Locke, and be like,
absolutely,
learn to breathe, fuckers.
Yeah, exactly. You just stick them out there with a space helmet on. They won't like that very much. So, but we're going to ignore those. I think we're just going to pick these cards. And Lightning Harvest is a fun card, but you need science tags.
I did see that. I did notice that one.
Yeah.
It stands out from like power infrastructure, protected habitats, herbivores. All of these things sound very grounded. And then Lightning Harvest.
Yeah, this game has some real kind of like all over the place card art and concepts and stuff. It's like you say, some things are really like just, you can get ants and you can get pets. Even there's a card with a little dog on it, and basically every time you build a city, like, you sell them a pet, but then you get ridiculous...
Our colony 100% has to have pets.
Well, let's hope.
Like, I have zero doubt about this.
Let's hope we draw the card. If we see the pets card, we'll definitely take it. So I'm going to take Trans-Neptune Probe because it has a science tag on it. And I'm going to take Lightning Harvest because it needs 3 science tags. So we're going to hope that we're going to draw more science tags so that we can play that card. But basically, every card has drawbacks and advantages. And so we're going to hit done, and it's telling us that we're spending 21 of our starting credits on these cards. And the starting credits is determined by the corporation that we pick. So this is the opponent. They've picked Eventrix. It kind of switches between the two of us. So that was their first turn. That was very quick. The kind of major downside to the game in its current state is that you don't get to see what your opponent has done. So on their turn, you see their kind of different values of their different resources change. You see stuff happening on the surface of the planet, but it doesn't tell you what cards they've played. And I understand that is being added to the game because that's quite important. To be able to, at the very least.
I mean, is that a feature of the board game?
Absolutely,
that you can see what your other...
Yeah, you can always see your opponent's tableau, and you see them playing the cards, and everything's played face up. So yeah, that is going to be added, I believe. Let's have a little look at the chat for a second. Anything going on there? Susan says she's learning stuff. What are you learning? Maybe she's learning something from me about Mars. Or probably not.
You say that with the genuine tone of a Martian conqueror.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to me. So let's look at. We've started off with like only 9 money because we kept quite a lot of our cards. So that's the downside of keeping cards, right? So here you
Only
can
9 of the monies.
exactly, the monies are very low, but we have a lot of steel, which allows us to buy those building cards. The surface of Mars is split into hexes. So
As we all know.
as we all know, just like the real Mars. And the cool thing about the presentation of this app, this digital version of the board game, is it's got this very slightly kind of 3D kind of quality to it. So you can see it wobbling around there. It's very satisfying. It's very attractively presented.
No, absolutely.
And the board game has notoriously shonky production values. Like they're really, really not very good. Like the card stock is quite low quality, and it's a testament to how good the game is that in spite of like somewhat ropey production values, it's still like a massive cult hit. This app seems to address some of the issues with the board game because the design is actually genuinely really nice, and so the designers have done a pretty good job of kind of getting that right. So let's have a look.
Okay, so yeah, let's see. Can we have a look at your hand?
Yeah, there's my hands. So those are cards we picked at the start. So that's all we have at the moment. On your turn, you have up to 2 actions. So you can do 1 action or you can do 2 actions, and then your turn ends. So what you want to try and focus on early on is getting some economy going. So I am going.
So getting that skrilla, that cash money.
Yeah, get the cash flowing in, or if not cash, then steel or titanium, because those are the 2 additional resources that let you buy certain cards. So we're going to play industrial microbes, I think, because that gives you energy production and steel production. And because it's a building card, I can pay for the cost just in steel. And remember, we start off with 18 steel. So I'm going to choose that and pay 6 steel and use that. And that, you can see, gives us 1 production in each of those things. So every generation we will generate an additional steel and an additional energy. Now, as my second action, I can, and I think I will, use building industries. Because we have given ourselves an energy production, we can now afford to play this card, because basically you have to move your energy production down 1. And then you get 2 steel production, and once again we can pay for this out of steel. So the outcome of those 2 cards is that we now have 3 steel production around, which is a nice little bump at the start. And something's gone wrong on that card. Oh, actually I need to, I'm sorry, end turn, because that's my 2 actions. So you see the computer's done something, and it's now on 22 points, and I'm not entirely sure what they did. So but we can explore, right? So, because we can click on tabs.
Already, like, while I'm noticing, like, see, because you already know the game and you're here to talk me through it,
yeah,
I can see how this is going to work, but I think the area where this most immediately needs to develop is in its how it would present those mechanics. Because with a digital board game, what you're always trying to figure out is how is this better than the actual physical tactile object.
Oh,
and
yes,
I'm kind of looking at it and I'm like, like, if somebody hasn't played Terraforming Mars and this is going to be their introduction to it, I'm looking to see how it would educate its new audience.
Oh, absolutely. I think
right now this is super not readable.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is in the works. I have watched some streams with the developers, and they are talking about kind of like adding all of that readability in, so you'll be able to see what your opponent's doing. One thing that, and obviously tutorials and things aren't in the game, right? And the only reason I know what I'm doing is I've played the board game a lot, so I can immediately pick this up and go, yeah, I understand this. But there are even a few things that are a little bit confusing for me. Like, for instance, they've split up the information on cards in lots of different ways, and it's very hard once you've played a card to find the trace of it again. So for instance, I play a card that has an action on it, so that you can take every round. I can view that action over here under actions, but cards also have tags on them which are important. So I can view the tags that I have over here, and you can see I've played 4 building tags and 1 microbe tag, because that can become important later. But nowhere can I see the original card that will tell me what the action is, what the tags were, what they are all together. And there are some cards that becomes a little bit confusing, like Pets, for instance, is a card that I mentioned earlier. And basically it has an ability on it where every time someone builds a city on Mars, you deliver a pet to them. And you put a token on that card, and that's a point for the end of the game, right? So the more cities that get built, the more pets you get them, the more points you get, because everyone likes pets, right? But it also has a special ability on it where most animals can be kind of like eaten by bears. If someone puts a Predators card out...
wait. On Mars?
Well, you introduce bears to Mars, and then...
Who thought that was a good idea?
Well, you've got to create a sustainable ecosystem and, like, have some biodiversity and stuff. So obviously you're going to have bears, aren't you? So the bears tend to eat other people's animals, and that means that you steal their animals and put them on your bears, and now the bears are worth points. But pets have this special ability. They can't.
Like those are kind of like the inverse mechanics of each other. Because like pets, you're like, I'm going to make everyone else happy, and in turn, I will receive points. And then the other person's like, yeah, well, fuck you. I'm going to make bears, and they're going to go and steal all your shit. Just ruin your day.
And root through your trash. Yeah, exactly. But pets can't be eaten by bears because they're safe in people's homes, right? So on the bottom of the pets card, it says, pets can't be removed from this card, which is fine. So what you have with the pets card is you have, under effects, it will tell you the rule whereby you add a pet to that card. Under tags, it will tell you the tags that card has, which I think is an animal tag. Under resources, it will tell you how many little cubes you have on that card. And then under actions, well, one of them's under actions, one of them's under effects, and then under effects it will tell you, like, cubes can't be removed from this card. So it's like literally information about that card is split in like 4 different spaces. I find that a little bit confusing. I'd really like there to be a way to overview all of the cards that you've played. So I don't know if that's going to be a thing that they'll kind of bring in, but that's my hope anyway. So obviously there's quite a lot to introduce here, so I'm hoping to kind of like touch upon things as we go, and kind of, rather than do a big rules dump up front, we'll just gonna start playing and I'll mention things as we go.
Yeah, just explain your moves as you go.
Yeah, and if you're confused about
this
anything,
is why I did this.
Yeah, and if you're confused about anything, just let me know and we'll talk about it. We need to talk about this.
I can't suffer alone.
Yeah. The main thing that you need to know is that to end the game, 3 things need to happen, right? These 2 gauges here are the oxygen level and the temperature. So in order to make Mars livable, we need to get the oxygen up to 14%, which is done mainly through planting trees. And we need to get the temperature up to a balmy 8 degrees, which is livable, but still quite chilly. And also we need to place 9 oceans on the designated ocean spots, and you can see that the ocean spots tend to follow the crater system on the surface of the planet. Which makes sense. You're putting the water in the lowland that can hold it, right? The basins.
Yeah, for sure.
And there are, in the actual physical board game, there's an additional expansion board which shows you two different sides of the planet, and that puts the oceans and things like that in different arrangements, which is really cool because it kind of gives some nice variation to the game if you've played it loads. Let's have a look to see.
Just to quickly cut in, just to say to the chat,
yeah,
no, Susan, that was the exact opposite of the plan. We're not putting the bears on Mars because it's so obviously a bad idea.
We don't have bears at the moment. I might put the bears on Mars if we actually get them, but we're kind of like largely dependent on what we draw. Okay, so right, let's have another turn because it's our turn again. Very typically in the first generation of this game, you don't get to do a lot because you haven't got your economy up and running. You've already spent loads of money keeping lots of cards, and it's one of those games that you kind of gradually and slowly build up, and then you just have a couple of monster turns at the end where loads of stuff happens. So you're kind of building an engine over the first 10 or so turns, and then kind of like hopefully it kind of you've built a better, more efficient engine than anyone else. So let's see if we can play another card.
I think that's the description for the entire. I think that's a description for the entire Euro game genre.
Absolutely.
My engine will be the superior.
Yes, probably why I like it so much. So we can't play Lightning Harvest because we haven't played 3 science stacks, so we have to ignore that for the moment.
Okay.
And if I was playing this in person, I would be putting that card to the back of my hand, so that I didn't have to think about it for a while. We could build the Equatorial Magnetizer, which is a cool card that allows us to get points. But you have to decrease your energy production 1 step to increase your terraforming rating a step. And we don't have any energy production. So buying this card at this point would be wasteful because we wouldn't be able to use it. So we're going to hold on to that for now. But in principle, your terraforming rating are points. And you start off with 20 points, and then you try and every time you terraform Mars, or sometimes through cards like this, you'll gain terraforming points. And not only does your terraforming rating act as points, but it also acts as income. So whatever your terraforming rating is, every turn you will get that much money, plus however much money you personally generate. So getting points is twofold in the game. It gets you money income as well as points at the end. And power infrastructure is another card that depends on us having some energy production, because you can spend any amount of energy you've produced to gain that amount of money. So you're converting energy into money. Once again, it would be a bit of a waste to play that. But we can play fueled generators, which costs us some money generation, but gives us some energy production. And it's very cheap; it only costs 1. So we're going to buy that. And you can see we've now got some energy production, but we've gone down to -1 on the old credit production there.
On that Skrilla.
What's that?
On the Skrilla, man.
Yes.
That cash money.
That cash. Yes, exactly. I didn't. I thought you were talking Vulcan or something.
No.
So we're going to.
It was a bad rapper.
Okay, it's not Klingon then. Okay, cool. I'm gonna end my turn and pass. Because you pass when you don't have anything else to do. And then what happens is you get all your production. You can see that happening there. So I now have 28 money, which is my terraforming rating plus my production, which is actually -1. So I actually had 1 taken away. And then the game presents you with 4 new cards, which is the draft for the round. Now, in the actual physical board game, you can play this 2 ways. You can either draw 4 cards from the top of the deck, which is effectively what's happened here, or you can do a draft. So everyone draws 4 cards. You keep one that you want, you pass them on. You keep another one that you want, you pass them on, until you have 4 unique cards. and I really like that because it allows you to see more cards, which means that you can like refine a strategy. It also means that there's more interaction because you choose which cards to pass to your opponent. So you could be like, oh, I don't want them to get this card, right? So hoping that they're going to introduce actual drafting into the finished game, and I'm sure that they will. But
well, I mean, it sounds like a fairly core mechanic.
yes,
like I can't really see how the game would work without it. I mean, like right now it sort of does, but I would argue that's such a core mechanic of this game.
I think so too, and everyone who plays this game kind of tends to play with the drafting rules because, you know, otherwise it's just a bit random. You get 4 cards every turn, none of them might fit your strategy, and then you're a bit stuffed. So the drafting is really important. There are a few other ways to draw cards, but it's actually quite difficult to. So we're not.
It's for the same reason as like you would need to you need to see the other players' turns. Like it's why that feels like it's missing so much.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's one thing that you would naturally have when you were playing a physical board game with other people, but it's something that has to be specifically programmed into the digital game. So so at the moment it feels somewhat incomplete. So let's have a look at the chat. Is there some kind of something going on there?
Lassiku has joined us. Susan, I think she wanted Mars Bears, and then she distracted herself with thoughts of Mars Bars.
I see what she's done there. She's taken the E out.
Yes.
Yeah. I can't believe they're still banging on about bears. Okay, so let's look at these cards then. So we've got hackers. They're clearly MMO players, aren't they? Or kind of they're playing Dota or something, right? It's like the other funny thing about this game is that the card artwork is from all over the place. Some of it is uniquely made for the cards, some of it is painted, some of it are just photographs sourced from the internet. You know, there are straight up cards that have a photo credit on them are from like the American Environmental Protection Agency and stuff like that. It's like it's
look
really,
at how many of them there are typing. They're so obviously like it's the quantity of hacking
they're all hacking.
That is being generated by that card.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is a bit of a nasty card, which is why it gives you -1 point. So whenever you see a number in this big image of Mars, that's points for the end of the game. And it's nasty because it means that you can take 2 money generation off another player to give 2 to yourself, right? So you've hacked some of their money, but it costs you a bit of energy to do. But it's a bit nasty, which is why you get -1.
I'm loving that flavor text, by the way. Very unethical, very illegal, very lucrative.
Yeah, this game has pretty, you might say awful, you might say wonderful flavor text. It's all excruciatingly dry, and sometimes that can be pretty funny. Like for example, there's a card that's like, I don't know, it's like, it's kind of. It's like kind of coal mining or something, and the card's called coal mining, and the flavor text is mining coal. It's just very dry and literal. This other one here, plantation. You need to have 2 science tags, and then you get to plant a tree. So it's important to point out at this point that at any point I could use a standard project to plant a tree on Mars, but that would cost me 23 money, whereas this card only costs 15. So most things that the cards let you do, you can just pay money to do without a card, but the cards are normally give you some other benefit or are cheaper. This is a firm favourite, release of inert gases, which if you're having a board gaming evening and you're having lots of Doritos and Coke, a lot of inert gases get released. That's, it's unavoidable.
I mean, yeah, it happens. We have to be understanding.
It happens to the best of us. And so this is an event, right? So you can see the events have this little down-facing arrow, and they're red. And basically, when you play an event card, it does a thing and then it goes out of the game, and doesn't really have any other effect. But this is actually
We
good.
also get a bonus for that, right?
Absolutely well remembered. So our corporation has a specialty of playing events. So we're actually going to take that because that is an event that we can play. And then satellites is you increase your mega credit production 1 step for each space tag you have. So these are space tags. Let's have a look at our cards and see how many space tags we have. 1. So that's not great at the moment. It might get better later on. So we can risk it and take it, maybe. And then we're just spending 6. So I think we'll take those 2. Unless you really want me to take hackers. I'm not sure.
See, I don't know. How... Yeah, it feels like at the start of the game when you can get the most amount of value out of that card in exchange for the point that's off.
Yeah.
It feels like now is a better time to take it than later.
Cool. Well, let's take it and then, let's bash the computer a little bit.
Yeah.
So we've taken that card. So it's us to go first. So that was production. So let's play hackers then, because we've got some energy production. I mean, that's the other disadvantage is like we take off our energy production again. But let's do it. Let's because it's. Oh, hold on. Why can't I play it? Do not fulfill the requirements to play this card. But I've got 1 energy production.
Wait, is it not asking for 2 energy production?
I think it's 1.
Oh.
It's -1 energy production and you get 2 credits, but you have to take 2 credit production off an opponent. Some of the cards are a little bit broken, it being an alpha, so it's entirely possible that this just isn't working as intended. So we'll leave that for now. We will release some inert gases though, hopefully. So
I've just eaten a few of those cakes, so yeah.
Oh yeah, tell me about your cakes. You baked some cakes, didn't you?
Yeah. I made white chocolate and cherry buns, and they are tippity top.
That sounds lovely.
I think I'm just going to just tweet them out just now. I'll get the Ready Up account to retweet them, so
nice.
Folks can take a look.
Yeah. Because
this baking has been quite the wee odyssey so far.
Yeah.
This is baking day number 5. Number 5. I've been doing 1 cake a week.
Is this in relation to something happening? Like, is this cake baking month or something?
No, I just wanted to kind of get. Honestly, have you heard of that show on Netflix? Nailed It.
I think so.
So it's kind of like the premise is like people who are not very good at cooking go on and have to try and make these Great British Bake Off super elaborate style cakes.
Yeah.
And just inevitably make an absolute hash of it.
Okay.
So it is super, super funny. But I was watching that with my partner and I was like, that doesn't look that hard. I could do that. And then she was like, came in the next day with a big roll of fondant. She was like, on you go, son.
Nice. And it was a success.
It was not.
Oh, okay.
First cake was absolutely dreadful. Truly, truly awful.
Nice.
But I've been improving since then.
Cool.
But I've been doing it for about like 5 weeks now.
Okay, I'm going to pass. Okay, so we'll see some more cards in a second. Obviously, we need to wait for the computer to pass. They've done that. Okay, great. So all of that was just me and the computer getting on production, and now this is the 3 new cards. And if you recall, we just took a card that gets us income for every space tag we have, and There's quite a lot of space
Yes.
tags here. So that's pretty good. So maybe we should take some of these, except the Soletta is very expensive. So that's 35 money, which
I don't think we even have that much.
no, we're a long way off generating that at the moment. This is a real kind of, it's either a late game card, or if you're fortunate enough to be a corporation that starts with lots of titanium, you can play it fairly early. But it gets you, it's basically a massive lens floating in space outside of Mars.
Yeah, so that sounds scientific.
Absolutely. I mean, there's definite equations on this chalkboard around the image, so it must be scientific, right?
Oh yeah, those are definitely not scribbles.
Someone's just said that my voice, Verity said my voice is very soothing. Thank you very much, Verity. That's
I was thinking that it's very relaxing thing.
I've always thought my
I
voice
actually
is quite annoying.
misread that.
You what? Sorry.
I actually misread what Verity said there as when do we get to the. I was like, oh, that seems like a necessary part.
Yeah.
Like, is there beer brewing on Mars?
Oh, no, not yet. So maybe that's going to come with another expansion, the beer brewing expansion. I don't know. So
I mean, it would seem to be required.
yeah, exactly. So the space station is quite a good card because it basically makes all space cards cost 2 less.
Yeah, all right.
So,
That sounds good.
So we're going to select that. Micro Mills is just
That flavor text is truly given up, hasn't it?
what, this one, small mass producer.
Yeah,
Mills.
on the space station.
Oh, okay. Nice. There we go. A little bit of a plug there. So we're gonna get Micro Mills because it's a nice little cheap ass card. Just gives us some.
Yeah,
heat
that looks like a
production.
good one.
And we're gonna get Asteroid. We're not gonna get Soletta because it's too expensive. Can't afford that. So you can see the computer is pushing up the heat, and I'm not entirely sure whether they're doing that through card play. I suspect that they might be using the standard project. So these are the standard projects. So at any point,
Right.
you can do one of these for this much money. So you can raise your energy production because that's quite important to play certain cards. You can crash an asteroid into the planet and raise the heat a step. You can put down an ocean, or you can put down a tree, or you can lay a city. So all of these things that you can do through cards as well. But if you don't have the cards to do those things, then this can be a good way to do it at a slightly higher price. And sometimes, there can be situations where it's the right time to do this, and you should do it.
Yeah.
I think the computer tends to just do this a lot. So the level of the AI of the computer is kind of like, it doesn't take many cards. It uses a lot of the standard projects as well. So I hope that's going to be tweaked as the game goes on and the AI starts to do more interesting things. But I think it's just kind of like taking the path of least resistance, which is probably why I beat it so easily.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the AI does seem to be one of the most difficult things about this to get this beating lifelike.
Absolutely, especially with a very complex board game like this with lots of different strategies. So I think we should play Micro Mills. So heat production is good because when you have 8 heat stored, you can use it to push the temperature up. And that's the main way of pushing the temperature up. And every time you do that, you get a terraforming point. So we're 1/8 of our way there. And then I don't think it's going to let us play the asteroid. Yeah, because it requires So the asteroid would push the heat up one and give us 2 titanium. So you can see it costs exactly the same as the standard project for shooting an asteroid into the planet, but the advantage of the card is that it gives us something else. It gives us 2 titanium, and it lets us take 3 plants off someone else, because basically we've just dropped a massive rock on their forest. But because neither me or the computer has any greenery at the moment, so there's nothing to remove, and because that's listed as part of the cost of the card, the game's not letting me play it. And I don't know if that's entirely intentional, because in the board game the cards say you can take up to that much greenery of someone, so you can play it and choose not to. Well, at least that's how I've always played the board game. But you know,
that's actually quite an interesting question for the developers.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I would actually be quite curious to hear the answer to that, to be honest.
Yeah, because
it does seem illogical, but like, it seems like the benefit that card gives you is supposed to be its default effect.
Yes.
So it's like, it can do this, it can also do this.
Yeah, and it feels like that being able to take 3 plants of someone is an advantage to you. So playing it when there aren't 3 plants to take, would be you taking a lesser version of that card. So it feels like it shouldn't be part of the cost. And it also feels like in the board game it's quite nice to be like, okay, I'm going to take 3 plants off you, unless you can't trade resources in the game, but you can trade promises. Like with any board game, it's like, well, if you don't hit me in the future, then I won't take your plants off you, or whatever. Or like, maybe I'll take them off the other person instead. So you can kind of play people off each other a little bit. I think that we should play the space station, which makes our space cards cheaper. And then that's the end of our turn. And then because Trans-Neptune Probe, you can see that the prices have now adjusted because the space cards are cheaper. The price of these 3 cards has gone down by 2.
Okay.
But Trans-Neptune Probe basically gives us a point. That's all it does. But it is a science tag, which is the main reason why I've kept it, because we need science tags for that card, which I can't remember, the Lightning Harvest card. But I'm not sure it's worth playing any of these. I'm going to try and play the hackers again. No, it's not going to let me. Damn you. So I'm going to pass. I'm going to keep it going. Okay, producing stuff. Get some monies. Alright, okay, here's some lovely cards for me. These 3 cards all are buildings, so I can pay for them with the massive stockpile of steel we have. These 2 cards are really nice early on. They're basically different types of mine. They give you a steel production or a titanium production, this one. So definitely going to take those 2. And the ironworks. Okay, so if you had a lot of energy production, you could spend energy to turn it into steel and oxygen, because you're running an ironworks, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot of energy production, so I don't know if it's worth keeping that. But I might keep methane from Titan, because although it's quite expensive, it's a space tag, and also these Jovian tags tend to score off each other quite heavily. So if you are fortunate enough to get a lot of those, then you can score quite a lot of points. And I tend to chase after those quite a bit when I play the board game, which is possibly why I always lose, because I end up buying loads of cards that I can't afford to play, and my economy kind of crashes through the
I feel you. I've got that problem in drafting games too.
Yeah. So I'm trying to be stricter with myself, but it's difficult. Okay, so we're going to play this mine out of steel, and we're going to play this mine and use 3 steel and 1 money. So that's that. What's the computer doing? Stuff.
That mysterious bastard.
Mysterious stuff. It's very secretive. It's just playing a very secretive organization.
Yeah.
Is it going to let me hack it?
If the developers are watching this stream, cannot emphasize enough how this is the first thing you need to fix.
Yes, yeah. It would just make the game so much better if you could see what your opponent was doing.
It's like I am coming to understand it now while watching this. But the more I come to understand it, the more I realize that interaction with the other players, or at least being able to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
That is so key for this game by the looks of it.
Absolutely.
So, dear developers, that is the first thing you need to work on. Show us what the other guy's doing.
Once again, either through requirements not being right or costs being too high, I think we're going to pass. So first few turns, tend to be slow.
So do you have a hand limit?
No, there's no hand limit, which can, to your detriment, because I'd be like, oh, I'll just buy all of these cards, and then I have like 40 cards in my hand, and it's like, oh, I can't afford to play any of these cards. And you can discard cards for 1 money each, but bear in mind that you've usually bought them for 3 money each. That's not very efficient.
Yeah.
So that's typically only good at the your last turn. You'll probably be like, oh, I'm just going to discard all of these cards that I can't play and do something. Or very occasionally it's like, oh, I need to do this now and I'm 1 money short, and then having the option to throw away a card that's less important is quite nice. So here's another couple of expensive.
I just want to quickly say, if Damus Down doesn't remove one of the moons, go. After.
Yeah, it does. Theoretically, it doesn't actually remove a moon from the game board itself. But technically, that's what's happening. And this is
but it's a video game. Why not?
Yeah. And
they should put it in this one.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one thing that I hope they add to this game is really cool little animations where you're kind of like, when you do shoot an asteroid or a meteorite at the planet, you see it hitting the planet. That would be really cool. And since they seem committed to presenting doing a really polished presentation, I'm really hoping that they go down that route. But Demos Down is kind of like the mother of all meteorites that you're kind of crashing into the planet, because it's basically Mars's moon, right? And this is the card which I think has the best flavor text in the entire game.
I have noticed it, and I am loving it.
Yeah, so we don't use that moon anyway.
We weren't using it. It's fine.
Exactly. So that raises the temperature 3 steps.
I mean, to be fair, actually, looking at the card art, which has no water on it, he makes a very good point. Like, what were they using their moon for?
Exactly. There's no tides. Well, there probably is after we're finished, but so that's a pretty expensive card. But once again, it's an event and it's a space card, so we're getting a reduction. And this one is also an event and a space card, and it's also very expensive. And it also requires 5 science tags, which we don't have at the moment. But it's 4 points for the end of the game, which is actually quite a lot.
It's also, like, again, another case of like really normal standard cards and then just insane things sitting
Yes,
right next to each other in this store. Like
absolutely.
interstellar colony ship
Farming.
farming.
Yes. Yep. And space farming though, that's exciting, right?
Yeah, but they can't even bother to call the card space farming.
Space farming. Well, we'll just add the kind of adjective space on the start of every card, and then we'll be
Yeah.
ready to go. This card's got a
Or
great
Mars. I
title.
mean, Susan's already done about like 5 of those in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a rad chem factory, radical chemistry factory, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's cool. We're definitely going to have that because it's a building card and it gives us terraforming points. So yeah,
Nice.
we're going to have that, and we're going to be, since we can't play a lot of cards at the moment, we've got money to burn, right? So let's just take those 2 cards as well, and then
Every time I've ever had that thought in a board game, I've been like instant regret.
Yes, absolutely. But I'm sure we won't regret that. But we don't care about farming, right? Oh look, so the computer's put an ocean down. So let's zoom in. Whoop. And admire the lovely water physics.
Oh, very nice.
It's just a nice little detail. And you can
Yeah.
zoom in. Whoop, whoop. So
Hey,
this is why
I appreciate that they animated it.
Yes.
Like,
this is why I feel that they are committed to making the game look nice. So they might well go the extra mile and have like interesting animations for some of the cards.
yeah.
So we're going to. We've got quite a bit of money. So
White guy problems, am I right?
yeah. So I think we're gonna do methane from Titan because that gives us 2 heat and plant generation, which is kind of. Oh no, we can't yet. Sorry, because it needs to be a minimum of 2% oxygen, and the computer is determined to raise the temperature and isn't bothering with the oxygen at all. So,
It's just like that will come next.
yeah, it's doing one at a time. It's kind of. It would be sensible to terraform everything at once, but apparently not. We're going to play the radical chemistry factory because we can pay for it all with steel, and it gives us.
That is totally radical, dude.
Yeah. Groovy.
Just by the way,
Nice.
they're definitely making like something illicit at the radical chemical factory.
If they're not, then I would be incredibly disappointed in them.
Yeah, I don't know if I would trust any chemical that came out of a radical chemical factory.
Yeah.
That wasn't saying
That
like
wasn't
up
radical.
front.
Okay, so it's time to introduce us to another part of the game, which is to do with endgame scoring. So we have these things called milestones, and we have these things called awards. So let's do milestones first. So over the course of the game, if you meet one of these conditions, it is possible for you to spend 8 credits to get 5 points at the end of the game, and that's a really good kind of point to money ratio. So they're worth grabbing if you can, and you'll notice that it's allowing me to use the builder one because I have 8 building tags. And in the board game, I mentioned that there were 3 boards. There are a completely different set of milestones and awards for each board. So we're going to do that. We're going to spend 8 money to claim a milestone, and then that milestone is ours, and we have 5 points at the end of the game. The other ones are get to 35 on the terraforming track, get 3 cities into play, get 3 forests into play, or have 16 cards in your hand, which is one that I often end up getting because my woes are taking too long.
That was a way to say like we're well on our way.
Exactly. And the awards you can buy at any time, and that is basically you committing to score that thing at the end of the game, but it does not guarantee that you get the points for it. Basically, you were saying that I want this thing to score at the end of the game. I think I'm going to beat the other players. If you're first in that category, you get 5 points. If you're second, you get 2 points. But you could buy something thinking that you're going to win it and then just be overtaken by someone. So you've ended up paying the cost of the awards, and someone else has gotten the benefit from it. Which is a really interesting little mechanic, and it's one of the bits of the game where it's like, oh, do I do it now? Do I wait until I'm safer? But also, you can only buy 3
I mean, the
awards.
milestones I can legit see working for an against AI game, but with the awards, that really does seems like it wouldn't be as satisfying a mechanic. Seems to me like that's a satisfying mechanic because there's a chance that your friend could steal your victory out from under you.
Yeah.
And that's entertaining when you're playing against a friend. Not that entertaining when you're playing against a robot.
No, that's true, and I don't think the computer is really, the AI is there yet for them to capably kind of decide whether to use one of these things. I mean, it does buy milestones, but that's because it just hits the threshold, and it's like, oh, I'll buy the milestone for that. But this requires.
Yeah, that's why I was saying like the milestone ones could work, but it's the awards that.
Yeah.
I think that's something that sounds like it would have been a great mechanic in the game.
Yeah.
But just doesn't. It'd be one of the things that I would retire for. One of the things that I've noticed with digital board games is that there's a bit of a tendency to adapt all of the details rather than understanding that a digital board game, I think, is better when it adapts the spirit of the board game. I think one of the best digital board games is Elder Sign.
Okay.
Which takes I actually don't really like the Elder Sign game as a board game, but as a phone game, it works fantastically because you control all 4 characters. And the individual turns are so quick.
Okay.
So that works way better as a digital board game than it actually does as a board game. But I think that's kind of, you've got to be thinking, how do I make this more efficient? How do I hide as much of the background stuff?
Yeah. Do you think that should include outright changing rules of the game in that case?
In some cases, like for example, what you were saying about the awards mechanic. Like, I would if I was designing this game, I would pull that out because it doesn't work as well with AI. Like, it doesn't matter if you improve the AI well enough that it's able to take those realistically. The fun of those cards comes from it happening against people. I think if it happened with the AI beating you, it would be frustrating and you would feel cheated in a way.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. I think that there could be a genuine case for kind of like if they improve the AI well enough to grasp that system, then I think it's a valuable one to still have in there. And remember that this game has been designed to play multiplayer with people online as well. It's just that hasn't been implemented yet, and that's always that's a tricky thing. They have to develop the net code and they have to get it all up and running. So it makes sense to have it in there. But yeah, I wonder if there could be an option to turn those things off. But I also wanted to draw your attention to this card, what we have just found.
Oh my god, I suddenly realized what it was. I've been looking at it for 10 seconds and I was like, that's a cute dog.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, pets!
This is the pets card. We have found it.
Very nice.
So, as you can see, the once again very inconsistent artwork on the cards. This is just a photograph of a cute little dog that they've slapped on there, which is fine and dandy with me.
So, out of curiosity, we were talking about our Mars bears earlier, and the Mars bears eat pets. If we have both pets and Mars bears, does it only eat our enemies' pets?
Well, you choose to activate the bears, and the special thing.
The special thing. Can we just pause on the phrase "activate the bear"?
Activate the bears. Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, sorry, continue.
The pets, a special ability on the pets card is animals cannot be removed from this card. So the bears cannot eat the pets. The bears can eat the herbivores and the birds and the other animals that are in the game, like small rodents and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But they cannot eat the pets because the pets are happily locked inside or on a lead or whatever. But
yeah, because if there's one thing bears hate, it's a lead.
Well, exactly. Well, hopefully the bears will be doing their thing in the forest and not rampaging through the cities that we've built on Mars. I mean,
how many bears have you encountered?
Well,
Martian bears in particular.
Not very many in Norwich, I must admit, but
or Mars,
or Mars for that matter. No, very true. Oh, space mirrors could be good. Okay, so I think we want space mirrors because it allows us to pump up our energy much cheaper than the standard project. And we can use that to fuel some of the cards that we've got. So we're going to take space mirrors. We're going to take Arctic algae can be a good card. And it's early enough to you get some pretty amazing phrases like that playing this game. It's like, I'm going to play some Arctic algae. And basically, whenever anyone puts a ocean down, you get some plants.
Nice. Yeah.
I normally don't.
So you're basically infesting other people's waters.
Effectively, yeah. I don't really like playing this card in a real game of Terraforming Mars because you get the plants so slowly and they're so vulnerable to being hit by asteroids that the card can not be worth it in the end, because it's like you pay for the card and then you slowly gain some plants and then someone wipes them out and it's like but that's not going to be a problem against the computer, so because they're dumb, so we might as well take them as well. And we're of course going to take the pets, and no one's placed a city yet, so it's still time. Okay, so with all of that in mind, we're going to play giant space mirrors and we're going to put pets down as well.
The Space Mirrors card reminds me of have you read The Expanse?
I have.
Book series?
I absolutely adore The Expanse. It's one
yes,
of my favorite
yes.
series. Yeah.
I am one book away from the end.
Me too. I just haven't found the time to read the last one.
Yeah. The mirrors instantly made me think of the opening of the second book.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which I mean, I would recommend those books to. So.
Yeah, they are phenomenal books. So let's. Can we play that? Yeah. No, we can't play that yet. We need the temperature to go up one more time. Let's play Methane from Titan, and we've got a little bit of titanium. No, we still can't play that because no one's put the oxygen up. Okay, let's play Arctic algae. No, we can't do that either. We've established that. And the computer's still not letting us play hackers. Okay, so what can I play?
I suspect it sounds like I foresee a pass in your future.
No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a standard project. So I'm going to build a city. So building a city using the standard project means that you will also get one credit production. So do you want to build a city? Yes. So now we'll bring up the grid, showing you where you can place the city. So anywhere that isn't a water tile. And you'll notice that the board has lots of little symbols over them. And basically anything that you put on those symbols will get you some resources. So
Yeah.
if I put the city on these little plant symbols, I'll get some plant resources. If they put them here, it's steel, and these ones here are card draw. So that can be quite valuable. So this is quite a good spot to pop down a city. So there it goes. It kind of nice little city in a glass dome there.
Stream's running a little bit behind, so I'm waiting to see it. I'm quite curious.
Yeah.
Do we get to the most important thing? Do we get to name the city?
No, unfortunately not. But
I've decided
out,
that city's going to be called. Yeah, that city's going to be called Chewy Griffinstein.
Okay, cool. Chewy Griffinstein has been established. Cool. So some of the cities are named. So if you played a card, like there's Noctis City, for instance, which and some of them have to be placed in certain spots on the board. So we've done a city. I suspect I'm going to be passing. I mean,
so at least we're not losing money every turn now.
No, we're not hemorrhaging cash anymore. But yeah, I'd like to be in a better position than this by now. I now have enough heat as well to raise the temperature, which is nice. Okay, so
turning the heat up.
Yeah. So new cards. We can get a strip mine. We can have a cartel. Or we can get some bushes. So the cartel.
I'll be honest. I'm really tempted by bushes.
Yeah, well,
just because it's so blunt.
Who wouldn't be?
You got a cartel? Well, fuck you. We've got bushes.
Yeah, they are pretty good. They could be 2 plant generation and 2 plants straight away.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick those. We like events, so we're going to pick that. Cartel gives you income for every earth tag you have.
For every earth tag?
Yeah. Oh shit, I meant to click away and I accidentally clicked buy. Okay,
I've had that problem many times.
We're not going to take cartel then, but I don't think we don't have many earth tags anyway. You can review this out. We've got 1 earth tag, so it might have been worth taking it, but we didn't. So hey ho. So to raise the temperature, you click the little temperature symbol, and then it pumps the temperature up, and then that gives you a terraforming point. Hey ho. So that's a point. That means we can use Arctic algae. No, we can't use Arctic algae. That means we can.
I'm gonna be so ready to celebrate when you use that Arctic algae.
Oh, hold on. Have I made a mistake when it comes to Arctic algae? Have I misread the card? Oh, crap. Okay, so it turns out that it wasn't a minimum requirement, it was a maximum requirement, so we can't play the card because it's already past the point at which it could legally be played. So we
nailed it, Dean. Nailed it.
Yeah, it's like my 50 games of experience playing Terraforming Mars really come in handy in times like this. Also, just a minor point, but my laptop is running out of batteries, so I'm not going to be able to see the chat. So if you can see what's going on there, if anyone.
Yes, I'll keep an eye on it. Make sure everyone's behaving.
Are there any more conversations about bears going on?
Things have quietened down now. V was chatting to Fran for a moment. Fran's phone is back down to a normal human temperature, which, like, I can feel your pain, man. Like, when I've had my phone get way too hot and just be like, oh, wait, why is my hand sore? Oh, right, I'm slowly roasting it.
Nice. What's she doing with it? Is she playing Clash of Clans or
Well, I think
something?
she was streaming yesterday.
Oh,
She streamed that amazing new Harry Potter game.
oh,
Have
okay.
you heard about this?
Oh, is that the one with the Jimquisition video that
Yeah,
someone
the one.
posted? Harry Potter and the Crock of
Yeah,
Shit or something.
yeah. So it's actually like if it came out like 10 days from now that this was actually some complicated piece of protest art
Okay.
against the concept of microtransactions, like you wouldn't have to change that much. Like it's quite notorious for the fact that it basically starts out with a character, like one of your self-insert Hogwarts student character
Mm-hmm.
is getting strangled by some vines,
Mm-hmm.
and you either have to wait 20 minutes to get the energy to escape from the vines, during which you will be forced to watch an animation of your character struggling and being strangled within the vines, or you pay for more energy. And this happens apparently about 10 minutes into the game.
Amazing. Wow. Yeah, that's quite something. Okay, so we're going to play Mining Expedition. Now, I think what it might do is I think it might... Oh no, hold on, the computer has some plants now, so this is perfect. The computer has some plants, so we can steal them.
Good.
So, do we steal them via the asteroid or via the Mining Expedition? Let's do Mining Expedition. That gets us to steal...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was hoping you would go the other way on that decision, Dean, to be
Okay.
honest.
Do you want me to throw an asteroid at them? But we need to.
Always. That is my number one life goal. It's always like, I don't understand why you've waited this long.
But we need to kind of raise the oxygen level, and that's what the mining expedition does.
Yeah, but also like fuck them.
Okay, let's launch an asteroid into the. Okay. Oh God, it's not letting me do it. Wasn't letting me do
Okay,
it.
let's do the mining excursion.
Let's see if the mining excursion works. No. Why isn't it letting me do it? I think some things are still a little bit broken in this game.
I think it's possible,
hold
but
on. I don't have enough money. That's why. And I can't pay the cost. Okay.
See,
Okay,
I
cool.
told you the Skrilla. That's what matters.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna.
Gotta keep that.
Yeah,
Gotta keep that mind's eye on the dollar.
Absolutely. So do you remember those space mirrors that we bought?
Yes.
So we're going to use them now because we've got 7 credits, so that gives us some energy production, and then we're going to pass. We're now generating something in all categories, which is quite satisfying. Well, I find it satisfying.
That sounds quite badass, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like you should have that coming out as like huge speaker announcement over your colony.
Yeah.
We are now generating positive values in all categories.
So...
All 5 categories of objects which define all meaning in life.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm just instantly assuming this place is a dystopia. Like,
well, it has to be, doesn't it?
Right? Like, yeah.
I'm not sure if I really want any of these cards, but mainly because I wonder if the game's going to let me actually use them. I mean, I have played this card before. So basically, this card lets you steal someone's steel production to get steel production yourself, which was I realised a more complicated sentence than it needed to be when I started saying it. So you have to have some steel to steal some steel, is what I'm saying. But the times that I've played this card before,
that sounds like that. Wait, sorry. That sounds like some kind of crazy Australian catchphrase. You have to have some steel to steal some steel, mate.
Yeah, have a look at this knife. You call that a knife? You call that a great escarpment consortium? That's a great escarpment consortium. But yeah, I played this card before and it straight up forced me to steal the steel from myself. And if you steal the steel from yourself, it kind of doesn't work. It's kind of bad. So I'm gonna leave that. This is a good card. So Caretaker Contract lets you convert 8 heat into terraforming. Basically, when this temperature gauge hits the top, heat becomes completely useless in the game. But you can use this card to still score points from it. So if the game,
that seems useful.
Yeah, so if the game is going heavy heat production, which it is, this is quite a good one to have. So let's get that. And then let's see if we can play one of our more expensive cards. We still can't play Methane from Titan because we need oxygen. We've almost got enough trees to plant a forest. Right, let's use that mining expedition. Okay, so then the screen pops up and says, who do you want to steal the plants from? Do you want to steal them from yourself, which is the default option that the game gives you, which doesn't seem like a good idea to me, or do you want to steal them from your opponent? Sure, I'll steal them from my opponent. Hopefully that works. That's worked. Yay.
I gotta say, congratulations to your opponents for having the most boring name in the universe.
Inventrix. Oh, it's letting me play hackers. Okay,
Finally.
Once again, do you want to steal money production off yourself? No. Oh God, it's going to force me to. Okay.
Hey, I haven't reached that portion of the screen yet, so I'm quick. I'm watching now with anticipation.
Okay, so I've just hacked myself. Okay, so let me explain what's happened here. Because I finally have some money production, it's actually allowed me to play the card. But my opponent.
But you're the only available target.
I'm the only available target according to the card, because my opponent makes 1 energy production, money production, and the card wants me to steal 2. So yeah, this is a big problem.
I'm just realizing that there's also no back button.
There's no back button, so I'm now fully committed to hacking myself. So let's do that then. So what we have essentially done is spent 6 money and an energy for nothing. Yeah. So that needs to be fixed. I mean, that's the clunkiest thing about the game so far, and I feel like it's just needs to be refined. But yeah, it is quite frustrating when that happens, and there needs to be a back button. It's like, oh, I did not want to do this.
Yeah, I mean, like,
let me go back.
You know, clunky is one thing. Like, you could say that the way that interface is designed is clunky.
Yeah.
But not having a back button on that window is, that's not good.
No. So let's go. Have we got enough science stack? We've got 1 science stack. Okay, so we're going to use our space mirrors to get back the energy that we just wasted. And we can't do very much else. This actually hasn't been a particularly interesting game of Terraforming Mars, because I haven't managed to get my kind of economy up and running.
I mean, I was going to ask, if I understood that last turn correctly, I'm pretty sure you just did nothing.
Well, I hacked myself.
Yeah, so nothing. Yeah, because there was no exchange, right? Like, you spent the money and then you got some money back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, basically all you did was
spend money.
But
you got to spend
nothing
money
happened.
to make money, right?
Yeah, but that means you have to spend money on things that happen.
Oh, this is where I've been going wrong. But you know, on the bright side, I now have 27 steel, and very little to spend it on. So this is why the game needs to have a draft to be effective, because you know, you can specifically be like, oh, I will keep my eyes peeled for steel cards that I can spend the steel on. But you know, maybe we'll get some here. Well, there's some steel card. There's some greenhouse gas factories. That's what we want, because we need to create an atmosphere. So let's pump some greenhouse gases up there. That's how that works. And let's have a convoy from Europa. Bring some of that nice water from Europa. They don't need it.
From Cuba. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, and this is what I mean.
That's a cool enough sci-fi idea, at least.
Yeah. So there's some kind of thematic stuff in here. I understand that there is some attempt to draw on real science, or at the very least science fiction, when it comes to coming up with some of these ideas. Here's an interesting card. So this is building a colony on Ganymede, and this is one of those cards that scores for Jovian tags. So if you get a lot of Jovian tags, these cards can be really valuable. So I'm just going to take that because I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff.
Sorry? Yeah. Crispy.
Okay.
Lost you for a minute there, man. You're back.
Oh, I'm back. Yeah. No, you lost me.
I lost you on the Discord for a few seconds.
Okay. I was just saying that I'm a sucker for Jovian tags, so I took Ganymede colony.
Yeah.
So let's put a forest down. Okay, so we now have enough greenery to create a forest. It's telling us that here. So do you want to convert 8 plants to a greenery? Yes, I do. So forests have to be placed adjacent to something that you own on the board, and it's better if they go next to cities. So basically, when you plant a forest, you raise the oxygen level, so you get a point for that. Forests are also worth 1 point at the end of the game, and in addition, every city you have that's next to a forest gets 1 point per forest it's next to. So forests can be effectively worth 3 points if you put them next to your own cities.
Seems.
So I'm going to put it there. In addition, I get the 2 plants that it was on. And because I placed it next to an ocean, you get 2 money back, because anytime you place something next to an ocean, you get money back, because things like being next to water. And look, if we zoom in, there's this lovely little forest tile with some kind of like dynamic scenery stuff going on, so it's quite nice. So we've planted a forest, and now we're going to see. The other problem is, because the computer is hell-bent on just pushing up the temperature with standard projects, is it doesn't concentrate on generating anything in its economy, which means I can't use any of the cards that require me to steal things from said player's economy. So it kind of makes half the hand I have kind of redundant, which is a little bit frustrating.
Oh man, dude, I'm disappointed. You told me you were gonna crush this game.
Well, I'm still gonna crush.
Now we're like 20 minutes from the end of the stream, and you're like, possibly I'm not going to crush it.
Hold on, okay. Well, we need to sort this out. If you dare doubt me, we're going to speed through these next turns then. So I've just put an ocean down, and I've put it on a space that has some card draw on it. So I now have drawn 2 cards. Let's have a look to see what those are. I have got some designed microorganisms, which will require it to be minus 14 degrees or colder, which it isn't, so that's useless. And I also got some imported nitrogen, which gives you a bunch of animal-y stuff. So if I play this, I can get some pets from it, because that's science, I guess.
But we already had pets.
We do, but like we want to actually collect the pets on the card. So
okay.
Pets are an animal card, and this card lets me place animals on an animal card. So basically, like, you're spending 21 money to get a terraforming point, 4 plants, 3 microbes and 2 animals. So it obviously depends on you having cards to hold those particular things. But if you do have the right cards, then that could be quite valuable. Let's get the greenhouse gas factories. Let's use our giant space mirrors. Anything else I can do, really? That design microorganisms has a science tag on it as well. That would have been so lovely. Oh, I now have IO Mining Industries as well, which is another card that has a Jovian tag on it. But it is super duper expensive to play. But it is quite nice. Okay, I think I need to pass. Oh no, actually I'm going to pay for an asteroid because that step on the temperature gauge gets me a free ocean. So there are some steps on the various gauges where you get a little bonus for doing it. So it could be like a really nice timing thing. So I'm going to slap that ocean down there. Yeah, so it's kind of like a. Sometimes people will hold back heat just to be in the right player position to trigger that at the right time. That's part of the strategy of the game. So the expansion to this game, Venus Next, introduces another gauge. So you're also trying to terraform Venus, because why stop at Mars?
Yeah, I mean, I was already sitting there thinking, like, the problem with this game is it's just too simple and easily comprehensible at a glance.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, here's ants. So ants do pretty much the same thing that bears do to other animals. They do to microbes. So with ants, you can steal microbes from other people's cards and put them on your own cards, and so the ants carry them away and give you points. But our opponent doesn't care about any of that stuff, so hey ho. We're going to take these 2 cards because that's got a science tag and that's got a Jovian tag, and we're going to take acquired company because it gives you 3 money production. I think it's still worth it at this stage. I can raise the temperature, which I will do. I'm going to play acquired company. So inevitably, part of the game has gone a bit slowly because I've been, talking through some things as we've been playing them as well. But
you can see it. You can see it starting to accelerate.
Yes, it definitely does do that. But I do feel like I've had a bit of a slow start, uncharacteristically slow. So let's play that card. Solar wind power. 18 money left. 18 money. What can I do with 18 money? I could import some nitrogen. So much fun. It's like board games, eh? What do you want to do your turn? Oh, I'm going to import some nitrogen. So this allows me to put 2 pets on my pets cards. Because clearly there was space aboard the shuttle, to store some dogs as well.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
And dogs are great.
Exactly. Playing that card has also given me enough greenery to put an extra forest down. So I'm going to do that. So starting to get some stuff down on the surface now, which is quite nice.
See, I think I kind of get why there's. So it seems like the AI is currently a pretty significant problem. And I think you're right in that what it's doing is just investing its money directly into standard projects.
Yes, which isn't something that can win you the game. Yeah, no, though, you're right.
And like so many of your mechanics are clearly built around the assumption that your opponent isn't going to be doing just that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And there are different corporations, and some of them, there's one in particular that does benefit from using some standard projects more than others. It gets money back if it spends over 20 on something. And there's a couple of standard projects that cost more than 20, so playing those becomes a little bit more viable. But generally speaking, it's not really the thing to do. Okay, so we have one of my favourite cards here, Optimal Aero Braking. So this card gives you 3 money and... What's that, sorry? Hello? Have I lost Stewart?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I was just saying, I assume it doesn't have anything to do with the chocolate.
No, it's for stopping aero bars. Yes, optimal aero braking. Surely that would be putting it inside your mouth and eating it.
Well, no, I mean, if you could somehow if there was like a specific way to squeeze the arrow so that all of the pieces came apart at one time, that would be optimal aero braking.
Oh yes, I see what you mean. But no, this is about playing space event cards, and they give you because it's perfectly thematic, because basically you're throwing big asteroids at the planet, and if you have optimal aero braking for those asteroids, then you'd be able to do it more efficiently. So you get a little bit of heat back and a little bit of money back. And I think we've still got a fair few space events, so I think it's worth getting that. And I think it's worth getting Lagrange Observatory, because it's a card draw and a science tag. Advanced Ecosystems is quite a nice card if you're going down an animal and plant strategy, because there are some cards that trigger off these tags. So plant tags, microbe tags, animal tags.
Have we settled that's what our strategy is?
No, it absolutely isn't. So I'm not going to take this card. This is a nice little points earner if you are going down that strategy, because it's worth 3 points as well, and it can trigger a whole bunch of other stuff. But it's kind of useless for us, so we're going to ignore that one. Show a bit of restraint, which is something.
I mean, yeah, obviously, when I was, well, you wouldn't want to be too elaborate in your Terraforming Mars project.
Absolutely, no. And with that in mind, I'm going to play Optimal Aero Braking.
Snap.
Which is going to let me more efficiently throw this asteroid at the planet. Except only I have the plants to steal, so maybe I'm going to wait until the computer has some more plants. God damn it. Okay. Let's have the Lagrange Observatory, because I want a card. So that's given me fusion power. Oh, it's another science tag. Oh, and it's... Do I have 2 power tags? Can I play this card? I do. I have 3 power tags. Okay, cool. I can totally play this card. That's actually a really good card that I've just drawn. So that was quite fortunate. And I can pay for it all with steel. So it's given me...
Like it's all coming up, Dean.
It is. Indeed it is. And now I think I have enough science tags to play Lightning Harvest. So I'm going to play Lightning Harvest. which is just a very cheap way of getting energy and money production. But you need so one of the strategies with this game is there are lots of cards that are very cheap ways of getting lots of shit, but you need to have lots of science tags to do it. So there's definitely
Right.
one route through this game where it's like, oh, you keep all of the science tags and then you combo off them really efficiently. And then it's kind of like someone who's not following that strategy will in the draft get a card that requires 7 science tags to play and just think, oh god, I don't want this, but also I don't want the person with the science strategy to have it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
then you start hate drafting those people and kind of like just taking their cards. So what can we play? Let's play. That's not really worth playing yet. Let's play Power Infrastructure.
Nice.
So that lets us turn our excess energy into money, and we're starting to get some energy now. Yeah, so that gives us quite a good amount of flexibility. And then I can use. So I've got a nice little combo here with these 2 cards. I've got Space Mirrors and Equatorial Magnetizer. Space Mirrors lets me pay 7 to get some energy production. An Equatorial Magnetizer lets me spend that energy production to get a terraforming point. So effectively, I'm paying 7 money for a point, which is a really good exchange. Oh no, hold on. Also, do I have enough for a milestone? So you can see that the computer has bought the terraforming milestone because he hit 35 before I did.
Yeah.
So he went ahead and did that. Might be too early to fund an award, but I'm gonna go for it anyway. And I'm gonna do Landlord, which is have the most things on the board. So I've already got 3 things on the board, and the computer, hasn't got anything. So I'm gonna say with some confidence that I can kind of win that. And then I can't play anything else, so I'm gonna pass. And I'm now on about 35 on the terraforming track, so I'm getting a decent income now. And I've also got 8 credit production, so I'm getting 43 on my turn, as opposed to the 20 I started the game on. So you can see things are kind of ramping up a little bit. So these 2 cards are good for me because they're space events, but it's the same problem with the big asteroid. I don't know whether I'll just be taking plants from myself. So I'm going to.
Yeah, I would definitely argue that, like, I don't know. You're in pre-alpha, so I'm assuming you could still file a bug report.
Yeah, and in fact, I have been noting. I have been noting several issues I've been having with the game, and I'm gonna find a way to pass them on to the developer.
I do hope that they manage to fix these, because this actually does look like a remarkably decent adaptation of
absolutely.
a game I've been wanting to play. The stuff that you've got in there, like the little animations that are there, and the flavor text, the way that each card is presented, they work.
Absolutely.
But like now you just have to take advantage of. You need to build a better AI. You need to build a better interface, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you need to fix the bugs.
Yeah, and like I say, I'm guessing that will be what they're focusing on now. Because I think, there's still some time before it comes out. It's marked down as second quarter of this year, I think. I'm not entirely sure, actually. But, yeah, there's still some work to be done. But also, this alpha build is already about a month old, I think. So,
we'll pass that. We'll pass those different problems onto the devs.
Yeah.
Later on, using that method that Susan suggested.
Oh, cool. As Susan suggested.
Yeah, we can use Twitch highlights and clips to send off a couple of bug reports to the designers, which
Oh, yeah.
I think would be quite nice.
That's a good idea.
Oh my
Okay.
God, I'm still in QA. Move all the way out to Bankery and become a barman, and I still think like a QA tester.
Did you used to work in QA, Stuart?
I did, yes.
Who for?
Uh, a outsourcing company
Okay.
called Pull to Win.
Okay.
Um, it was a decent enough job, but I've come out here to be a barman instead of QA testing.
Oh, wow.
And I was still just like file a bug report.
I guess there are less bugs in bartending.
I don't know. Some of the places I've tended bar.
A few cockroaches running around.
Mhm. So Susan has a question for you, by
Okay,
the way.
great. Yes.
How do you think this? How do you think this adaptation fares overall compared to the cardboard version?
Um, I think I'm always going to enjoy playing it in person. Um, with the physical version. I think that this is going to be a really good way of playing this game more online. And I really want the AI to get really good because I actually enjoy playing the board game solo. There's a solo mode in the board game,
Oh,
which is
okay.
really good actually. And actually, the AI doesn't need to be really good for you to be able to play it solo. The cards just need to work. But basically, solo play is you have 14 turns to do all of the terraforming, which is quite difficult. And if you manage to achieve that, then you score your points and record your score, and then you try and beat the score going forward. Yeah, and it's
So
really
how does
good.
that work with all of these stealing cards then? Because that seems to be
Yeah,
quite a common mechanic. How does
yeah.
that work in the
So
solo game?
those become. Um, so I've always played when playing the board game any card that lets you steal things off another player. I've always played that as an optional rule, and I don't know now whether whether I'm doing it right, because this version of the game adamantly says no, that's part of the cost of the card. You have to be able to take that off someone, even if that someone is you. And yeah, so I feel like having that restriction there would make the solo play of the game way harder. um, because now
Well,
a
yes,
lot
yeah.
of the cards are going to become impossible to use unless you're generating stuff to take from yourself specifically. So yeah, it's a really interesting question actually. I've got loads of money now. I'm just going to play.
I've got that cash money.
Yeah, um, I've got a few cards here that just cost steel, and I've got loads of steel, so I'm gonna buy that. Increase my energy production. I'm gonna buy medical lab. Actually, hold on. Do I have any more? Okay, so medical lab gives me. I haven't got a turn left. I'll do it in a second. So medical lab means that I get 1 money for every 2 building tags I have, and I actually have quite a lot of those. I have 13. This will be 14, so I'll get 7 money.
That's not
7 money
bad at all, is it?
production, which is really good, and I can pay for the card using steel. My money production has now gone up to 16, so yeah, that's going quite well. And so far, I haven't spent anything on cards because I've just been spending steel. But I am going to buy some incredibly expensive cards now. I'm going to buy IO Mining Industries, which costs 39, but gets me 2 titanium and 2 money production, and it gets me a point for every Jovian tag I have.
Very nice.
And I'm also going to play Asteroid Mining for 28, which has a Jovian tag on it. But first, I need to end my turn. Okay, there we go. Which is perfect because I have exactly 28 left. It's almost fate. Don't you just love it when you have a turn in a board game and it's like, I have precisely enough money to do this
Yeah,
thing.
no, that is the most satisfying round.
And it's like, it
It's
almost feels
yes,
like
I can make all of the things that I want to do work.
Yeah, it almost feels like it's kind of meant to be. It's like, oh yes. And sometimes it's through clever planning.
This is the optimal strategy.
Yeah. Sometimes it's through clever planning, but more often than not, it's through just getting really lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm aware that we're coming up to about 2 hours, and I'm kind of
So I'm going to nip over and start getting ready to take over on the PS4. I will take that active at 8 o'clock on the dot. And I will start up a party with you as well. So
okay, cool. I'm going to wrap this up fairly soon. I was kind of hoping to blitz through a whole game, but as you know, we've been talking about things, and you know,
I mean, if you're able to save it in progress, then and we can come back to it.
I don't think I can save it. I don't think it has that facility yet.
Okay.
But you know, I've abandoned quite a few games midway, so hey ho. I'll claim that as a win. I've managed to pull ahead of the computer.
Yeah. It looks like we're on our way to winning.
I've got points on the board. Let's have another milestone, the gardener milestone, because I've got the most plants. So I've got 10 points out of 15.
Claim it now because it means I win.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you know, now I am in a very enviable position of having lots of resource generation. I've got 23 steel, 5 titanium. That's lots of stuff to spend on really high value cards. I've got loads of Jovian tags, so I'd be getting points from those. I've got a card called the Caretaker Contract, which lets me spend my heat production to generate points. And as you can see, because the heat temperature gauge is maxed out, that then becomes really valuable because I'm just getting an extra point a turn. I think I've got myself in a really strong position. I had a bit of a slow start, but there are so many different ways that this game can pan out because there are so many different cards and there are so many different interactions.
Fascinating. Like it is. I am quite curious to see. Like, failing all else, it has persuaded me to either pick this up when it does finally properly come out, or to whether or not I want to consider picking up a copy of this game.
Absolutely,
because that's what I'm thinking. I'm walking away from it thinking it's very dry, but I can definitely see the appeal of the game.
Yeah, and the really cool balance it has when you're playing with other people is you have your own stuff going on, and you're building a tableau and you're building an engine, and that feels really good. But then the central board provides like all of the interaction because you're fighting over the best spots on the board, and you're kind of interacting with each other's buildings there, and you're trying to sneak in a city next to someone else's forest to sponge some points off them and stuff like that. So
absolutely.
It gets the balance really right. It gives you enough to do that only you have control over, and stuff that, you know, the interactive stuff as well. And then the card drafting, I just love card drafting as a mechanic, and yeah, if you enjoy card drafting games, I think really this is one of the best out there. That's Terraforming Mars in its pre-alpha build. It's coming out through Asmodee Digital. I've completely forgotten the name of the developers. I'm pretty sorry. It's not far off now, and it's shaping up really nicely. So Lucky Hammers is the developer. I'm very sorry about forgetting that. But yeah, you guys are doing a good job, so keep it up. And I really look forward to seeing this game in its complete form, and I will probably stream it again when it's finished, and I will definitely write about it. So, in fact, I'm hoping to do some more regular streams of digitized board games, and you're very welcome to join me on those, Stewart. So, yeah, I think it's gone. It's gone. Okay. Right, I should go too then. So this is Mars signing off. Toodle pip.